guts, tenacity, or interest to investigate. The object of the show is simple, so you're the type of your team's candidate using facts, obscure knowledge, and trash talk. Tonight, Mr. Burns versus Jonah Jameson on West Coast Geeks versus Nerds! I'm fairly certain you can have a conversation purely in Simpsons quotes. I can't prove this, but I'm pretty sure that's how me and my friends talked in high school. We just hear over by the lockers, they're all playing, and you know exactly what's going on. At least that means racist, that's what's going on. The Simpsons, as of right now, has been on TV for 25 seasons, 7 of which are actually quite good. It's hard to really pinpoint the moment where the Simpsons jumped the shark, but hell, I'm gonna do it anyway. It's when Maude Flanders died. Yeah! That is exactly the point. 2000. When the show started, Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie Simpson were a parody of the typical American nuclear family, presented as the typical American dysfunctional family. By the time Maude Flanders was nailed over by a t-shirt cannon, the tone of the show kind of changed for me, and after that the characters seemed more like parodies of themselves who already were kind of a parody. Now the show has gone so long that people who are working on the show grew up watching the show. So they're making a parody of the parodied version of themselves, which started out as a parody. And then Family Guy ripped that off. So let me put it like this. Mr. Burns is a metaphor for the show in general. By all accounts, it should have died off by now, but for some reason it's still kicking around. Mr. Burns is evil, but he's also rich, and if American politics has taught me anything, it means you can get away with it. He owns Springfield's nuclear power plant and is the boss of Homer Simpson without even really knowing who Homer is. Even after Homer received a temporary promotion, but only while he had his hair. Or after Burns ate at Homer's house, where he was fed a three-eyed fish. Or after Homer's son gave Burns a blood transfusion. Or after Homer's wife painted Burns in the nude. And that's just in season 2. Clearly, Burns has some memory issues, which brings me to my next point about Burns. He's old. So old and so sickly that apparently he has every disease known to man, including hysterical pregnancy. Because of his feeble nature, Mr. Burns essentially is just a shriveled up old yellow stick. So he requires the constant need of his assistant, Waylon Smithers, who pretty much worships that shriveled up old yellow stick. And, wink wink, nudge nudge, say no more. Mr. Burns has a wardrobe that would give PETA a collective heart attack. But does that make him the worst boss to work for? Yes. I'm gonna go out and say it right now. I was not a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movie. At one point, I even called it worse than Spider-Man 3. Don't worry, the next morning I sobered up and apologized to all my friends. I'm sorry. Nothing is worse than Spider-Man 3. Nothing is worse. Except maybe the Spider-Man musical.
No.
Are you kidding me? At least no one got hurt on the set of Spider-Man 3. I mean, not physically, mentally probably.
There's nothing heroic about disobeying a dying man's wish.
Okay, I'm no fan of Mark Webb's not-so-amazing Spider-Man. Clearly, Sony just wanted to keep the rights to Spider-Man, so they compiled a list of things that are cool right now, shoved it in a Spider-Man suit, and said, "Yeah, there's your Spider-Man. Enjoy your Spider-Man movie. We make superhero movies, yeah." Now, I can forgive a lot of things. I go into a movie expecting the best. I expect them to try, and I can forgive the dark and brooding atmosphere trying to be Batman Begins. I can forgive Andrew Garfield's Edward Cullen-esque hair. I can forgive the lizard looking like one of the Goombas from the Super Mario Brothers movie. I can even forgive Peter Parker using Bing. I respect him less, but I can forgive it. But what I cannot forgive is who they got to play Jonah Jameson. No one. No one! Are you fucking kidding me? J. Jonah Jameson? Ah, hell's no! I enjoy seeing him make people miserable. It makes my life seem better by comparison. If you take J. Jonah Jameson out of a Spider-Man movie, that's like having a family dinner without your older, slightly racist grandparent. Sure, things go smoothly and they're slightly more pleasant, but it still feels like there's something missing. J. Jonah Jameson acts as editor-in-chief of the New York-based newspaper The Daily Bugle, and has a serious hate-on for Spider-Man. Unaware that he is hiring Peter Parker as a photographer, who is secretly Spider-Man. I know, spoiler alert, sorry guys. This leads to Peter Parker to perfect the art of selfies ages before Instagram. J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson is louder, faster, and more obnoxious than an auctioneer who hates you. He's a big enough asshole to be the only person who can pull off Hitler's mustache since World War II. But does that make him the worst boss to work for? That's what we're here to find out. Let's meet the Geeks and Nerds! Oh, Mr. Burns, Team Geek, and your geek leader. He is a producer with 4 Geek Media and a producer on the Shakespeare web series Blank Verse, where he plays Richard Burbage. Richard Burbank. He hates every ape he sees, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee. It's Andrew. A donut for everybody! This fan of the confectionery has but one wish, that donuts would rain from the sky. Pending that, he wishes for nothing more than the delicious confection to make people happy. This sweet-loving skis, or rather skies-reaching gentleman, is none other than Nico Anderson! This Vancouver and carbon-based writer has been taking his first tremulous, tentative, newborn fawn steps into the world of stand-up comedy. He is, among other things, an obsessed British comedy and comedian fanatic, and would love to be a British comedian someday, once he can afford the operation. It's Steve Waldman! And for J. Jonah Jameson, Team Nerd, and your nerd herder, a menace to society, more than a menace to New York. It's Jeff Penner! Extra, read all about it. It's Carrie M. Wadrow! A last-minute replacement for a man censored by J. Jonah Jameson. This man knows the truth. It's Aaron Golden! Enjoy the lawn chairs. All right, Geeks and Nerds, how are you doing tonight?
Wonderful. Excellent.
Sensational, yes. All right.
Groin-grabbingly good.
Groin-grabbingly transcendent. All right, please pick up your D20. It's time to roll for initiative.
Oh, look at that.
We got a 3.
I failed really bad.
And a 13. So, nerds, you have a choice to go first or second. What do you choose?
We shall go second.
All right. So, Geeks, you are going first. It is the introduction round. Please explain to me in 2 minutes' time why Mr. Burns is the worst boss to work for. 2 minutes. Begin.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the opposing team. There is a man, a certain man, whose lack of grace and withered face are known across the land. A man who makes Mitt Romney look like Rachel Maddow after a particularly soothing cup of chamomile. A man whose shriveled little raisin heart beats with the same frequency that Kate Bush releases new albums. A man who, like Oskar Schindler, once made shells for the Nazis, but his worked, damn it! He Charles Montgomery Plantagenet Schickelgruber Burns, and it is our assertion that he is the worst fictional boss. Now, we all know that Mr. Burns is basically the Negapope, but does this necessarily mean that he is a bad boss? What about Hank Scorpio, supervillain and CEO of Globex Corporation? He may have seized the East Coast with his doomsday device, but his employees have full dental and 3 weeks vacation every year. Or, what about a real-world example? Like S. Truett Cathy, CEO of Hate and Chicken Sandwich Mongers Chick-fil-A, who despite having publicly announced homophobia as a company policy, enjoys a 90% approval rating among his employees. Strange, 10% don't seem to approve of him. No, Mr. Burns is both evil and a bad boss. He is the full Monty. If you work at the Springfield nuclear power plant, you work in a facility where the cooling towers are patched with chewing gum, a facility with painted-on emergency exits, no lead in the radiation shields, and no urinal cakes. You will spend each working day working among irradiated rats and the motivational plaques, and when you inevitably die or unrecognizably mutate, your company insurance policy payout consists of a ham for your widow. And all the while, he lounges in his office like a Maharaja, huffing ether and cutting corners because, in his words, he'd trade it all for a little more. We give you the worst boss. To friends, he's known as Monty, but to you, he's Mr. Burns!
Man, Chick-fil-A made an enemy of the Muppets. You gotta be truly evil to make an enemy of the Muppets. Alright, so moving over to the nerds. Nerds, it is your intro round. Explain to me in 2 minutes' time why Jonah Jameson is the worst boss to work for. Please begin.
I would hate to work at the Daily Bugle. Who wouldn't? The boss there is absolutely horrible. And you know what he did? He used the Bugle money, the R&D Bugle money, to fund the Scorpion and the Spider Slayers, and everyone loves Peter Parker. Recently, he not only outed Peter Parker, so that Peter Parker could never be a photographer again, but he sued Peter Parker after he helped save his life and tried to prove it with a photograph, and Peter Parker was forced into mocking it up. Carrie?
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, talk to any reporter who wants to be a reporter, and you ask them, why do you want to be a reporter? And they say, you know, for integrity, to tell people the truth, to be honest and report history. But if you want to work for J. Jonah Jameson, you have to sell your soul. No one wants to be a reporter to villainize heroes, to make, to tell lies and to sell newspapers. No, people want to tell the truth. And can you imagine working in an office with a man who always has a cigar lit? I mean, such a tight quarters, that place has got to stink and be really bad for your health, too.
J. Jonah Jameson doesn't actually have any employees. He has independent contractors. That way, when he drives them into a nervous breakdown, he doesn't have to give them severance. He doesn't have to give them anything. They're just gone. He doesn't provide benefits. He doesn't provide mental. He doesn't provide dental. He drives everybody into a nervous breakdown. When J. Jonah Jameson goes home at night, he pulls out a stamp and stamps a wall for every life he has ruined for his employees. Yes, you might say that he protects his employees, his contractors, from supervillains, like he did in Spider-Man 1. But it's not that he dislikes supervillains or that he's protecting his contractors so much as he hates poachers. He doesn't want anybody taking his victims. If anybody is going to ruin the lives of his employees, it's J. Jonah Jameson.
All right, let's hear it for nerds. We're coming up to round two, which is the attack round. But before we do, it's time to hand out the rebuttal tokens. The rebuttal tokens can be exchanged into me to instantly rebuttal something the other team has just said. So we're going to start off with Mr. Burns. We have Blinky, the three-eyed fish. And for J. Jonah Jameson, we have pictures of Spider-Man. That's a sexy picture. So you guys have your rebuttal tokens, but only I have the gun. So keep it civil. So it's time for the attack round. Geeks, 2 minutes time. Explain to me why J. Jonah Jameson is not the worst boss. Please begin.
Jonah Jameson may be a douche-knocking monkey dick, but he's also a competent boss with a passion for what he does. Jameson's goal is to taint Spider-Man's reputation in order to sell more papers, to publish poorly researched stories with jazzy buzzwords in order to sell more papers, to ignore his life in order to sell more papers. While ethically this makes him a terrible journalist, husband, and person, and in a way it's way worse for the lives of the citizens of New York, this is exactly what you want in an employer. He gets things done to make sure his employees have a good job and a good salary. He is an equal opportunity employer, and he may be a hard ass, but he had a rough childhood with an abusive stepfather. Jameson himself is quoted saying, "No one's a hero every day of the week," on the topic of his short fuse. Jameson thinks of Peter Parker as a second son as their relationship develops.
Let's hear it for Geeks. And now it's time for the attack round from the nerds. Nerds, explain to me in 2 minutes' time why Mr. Burns ain't that bad of a boss. Please begin.
That's
Well, see, the thing about Mr. Burns is, it's great to work for a man like Mr. Burns, because he likes to give recognition where recognition is due. I mean, he started the Montgomery Burns Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence. The plant has a Worker of the Week program, which all employees are entitled to win, and, as though it weren't redundant, an Employee of the Month award, where the winner gets a ham, a coupon book, and Mr. Burns' personal thumbs up. And because he's a sweet boss, he's a caring boss. I mean, when he bought the plant back from the German investors, one of the first things Mr. Burns did was he rehired every single employee that was downsized by the Germans. He offered a full scholarship to Homer to Springfield University to improve his job performance. He personally leads calisthenics for his entire staff, save for those who work at home, which is a pretty sweet perk.
All right, whenever you there, we have a 3-eyed fish being turned in. What point do you care to rebuttal?
Always wanted to do this. Objection! The first thing Mr. Burns did when he bought back the plant from the Germans was... What was it? What was the first thing that you said?
He shut down the babysitting in his office.
No. The first thing when he was giving orders to Mr. Burns, it was like...
He rehired all the...
Rehired every single...
The second thing that he said was, cancel all repairs.
Did you say that? Is that a quote?
And rehire that chap who sassed me in the bar. Am I right? I keep my friends close and my enemies closer.
Let's take a look at...
Going back to the nerds. Please continue. We have about a minute.
Let's take a look at...
No, sorry. Keep going. He's a caring guy. He sympathized with Homer when he was committing health insurance fraud. He was sympathizing over his male pattern baldness, and he forgave him even though he was committing a crime and taking money from the plant. And Mr. Burns is a fun boss, too. He invites all his employees and their families to Isotope's baseball games, to Springfield Dragway to see drag racing, to his own birthday party, which had a performance by the Ramones.
And then the Rolling Stones died.
He hosted a retirement party for one of his senior employees. He pipes in Tom Jones music when morale is low. And the thing is, working for Burns is cake. He's got 714 employees in his directory, which meet the description of incompetent, lazy, clumsy, and monstrously ugly. Yet does he take any discipline against any of them? Does he fire them? No, he keeps them around. If Mr. Burns is such a hard boss, please explain to me how Homer Simpson, an incompetent, slow boob, can stay employed for 10 plus years and get a promotion on at least 5 different occasions, which is more than you can count on one hand.
All right, we're gonna get in there. Let's hear it for the nerds. Excellent. So it's time for round 3, which is the Moo Man question. I was saying words. So the Moo Man question is a question chosen specifically by me for each debate. Tonight's Moo Man question is, to be the worst boss to work for, one must be able to turn even a golden opportunity into a golden turd. Explain to us how your candidate would make even your dream job a living hell. So, Team Mr. Burns, you're first up to bat. Explain to me how Mr. Burns can take your perfect job and turn it into a horrible opportunity. Begin.
Ladies and gentlemen of the bribed jury, I would like you to take a moment and think. Imagine, if you will, your perfect job. You love what you do. You really like the people you work with. Now imagine the most horrid of bosses. He only cares about himself. He never remembers your name. And that's despite numerous meetings. And to top it all off, he owns a Terminator T-1000 that has fashioned itself to look like a robot Richard Simmons. Now, I will ask, who is this boss? Well, it's none other than C. Montgomery Burns. Imagine now that you're home, watching a lovable clown or a comedian or something like that, when a loud...
Who's there?
Goons.
Goons?
Hi, goons.
Hi, goons!
Now, why would they be there, you might ask? To intimidate you, of course. Now, Mr. Burns said it was because he prefers the personal touch, and that the telephone is much too impersonal. But no, he really likes to intimidate people. Now, this is also a boss who cuts corners at the job site. He has fake emergency exits. Now, structural integrity? What's that? Radiation poisoning? Who cares? Certainly not Mr. Burns. Now imagine for one more quick moment that you're outside his door at his home, at his mansion. You're pleading to him for mercy, maybe for money for charity. Now that's done it. That's when he lets loose the dogs, or the bees, or the dogs with bees in their mouths, so when they bark, they shoot bees at you. That is what your dream job has turned into. It's not a dream job because Mr. Burns has turned it into a nightmare job. And now nightmare job has been trademarked, copyrighted, and if you use the catchphrase nightmare job, he'll release the hounds on you.
All right, let's hear it for the Geeks. Same question, going over the nerds. Explain to me in 2 minutes' time how J. Jonah Jameson would take the perfect job and turn it into the worst job. Begin.
For myself, the perfect job would be, I would love to be a cast member on Saturday Night Live. However, I know that J. Jonah Jameson would constantly be telling me I was doing a horrible job, and he would be constantly editing my cue cards, and I get everything wrong.
This lanyard around my throat, I actually want to be a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. That is a thing that I want. Bill Ulrich is the preeminent journalist in the Marvel Universe. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. He turned around and exposed Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin. Got the whole history, the whole truth, all of it out there. And the minute Norman Osborn walked into the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson sold him out. Completely. Killed his career. Discredited him. Stopped him from practicing any kind of journalism for about 4 years. So, in a way, J. Jonah Jameson has already destroyed my dream job.
As for me, I think my dream job, and I don't think I'm the only one here who has this, is to be Spider-Man. You get to help people and be responsible and save lives, but, if I'm going to do that and J. Jonah Jameson's going to come around and make people hate me and send robots after me, then I don't know.
It's okay, Gary. It's okay, buddy. Hey, it's okay.
Made Spider-Man cry. 10 seconds, anything else? No? Okay, we're ending on weeping. All right, this should be interesting. We got round 4 coming up. Who would win in a fight? So, Team Burns, enlighten me. How would Mr. Burns defeat J. Jonah Jameson in a fight? 2 minutes time. Please begin.
J. Jonah Jameson would beat the ever-living piss out of Burns. This round is silly in that regard, no one can really argue that. But that's the worst thing Jameson could do. Attacking Mr. Burns would be the end of J. Jonah Jameson. Mr. Burns already bought the Springfield Chopper and would want to purchase the Daily Bugle in order to maintain a monopoly on all media. He proposes an offer which is very cheap and Jameson refuses. Burns then purchases the Daily Globe, the Bugle's main competitor, and hires Parker to take pictures of Spider-Man. He also buys all of Jameson's best staff and has the Bugle printing press sabotaged, making the Globe the #1 paper in New York. This is all with pennies to Burns. He's doing this just to piss Jameson off. Jameson then comes to kick the crap out of Burns. Burns will no doubt release the hounds, but Jameson is in pretty good shape and all that smoking has hurt his cardio and the dogs are going to get to him. He's tough so he can ward them off and he takes a few bites. He makes it to the door and barges in. Now he has to get through Smithers, who may seem a pansy, but we've seen him fight Homer. He can hold his man. He'll get a few hits in before Jameson eventually knocks him down. Now Jameson will get to Burns and proceed to kick the crap out of a 104-year-old World War II vet. But he won't be able to kill him. Burns has fallen out of a 3-story window, fallen off of a building, been shot, punched, struck by lightning, and has every disease. He's pretty much invincible. He'll take the beating, and he'll use the power in the media that he's created to create the headline, "Man Beats Up 104-Year-Old World War II Vet." The backlash on Jameson and the Bugle is irreparable. The Bugle becomes boycotted, and Burns' team of 12 high-priced lawyers sees that Jameson is sent to a maximum security prison for life. Burns can now easily buy the worthless Bugle and name it the Daily Burns, and he will send a copy to Jameson in prison every day.
Team Jameson. Jameson, how would Jameson beat up Mr. Burns?
Well,
There we go.
yeah, go ahead. I completely agree with Team Burns. So, if you want a realistic scenario, say J. Jonah Jameson is a stonecutter above Mr. Burns, and they're in the Avengers arena, therefore they have to fight. So that's what's happening. J. Jonah Jameson just takes the latest issue of the Daily Bugle, smacks Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns is crippled for weeks and eventually dies like the dog he is.
J. Jonah Jameson is a little bit more well off than Mr. Burns, so the chances of J. Jonah Jameson selling the Bugle kind of small. J. Jonah Jameson is really, really rich. How rich? He managed to become the mayor of New York.
Mr. Burns lost that mayoral race.
Mr. Burns can't beat him. He can't intimidate him. He can't scare him. This is a guy that stood up to the Hulk. Remember the Hulk in the Avengers? Big green guy that was throwing around a whole bunch of alien armies? Jameson didn't back down from that. He stood the test of time against Tony Stark. He stood the test of time against Norman Osborn. He stood up to S.H.I.E.L.D. Burns can't touch him in a social arena. And Mr. Burns might have some sort of image problem, but if it's not going to be anything compared to what Jameson can do to him.
30 seconds.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burns was once almost killed by a sponge. The scariest thing about Mr. Burns, really, like if you're trying to paint him as this villain who's so terrifying and mean, the scariest thing about him is he could die in any second. A slight breeze could ruin his Three Stooges syndrome. And I mean, what could cause a slight breeze? How about J. Jonah Jameson slamming the door in his face?
Or just talking.
All right, that's time. Let's hear it for the nerds. Okay, folks, we're almost at the end of the debate, but it is time now to open things up. We got 5 minutes of open debate. No more time for waiting for turns. Just go right at it. And go.
What?
Anybody?
What? How about Mr. Burns actually providing health care? Full benefits, dental. Remember there was that whole thing where Homer Simpson was in charge of the union.
Remember there was
They
that
have
whole
a union. The nuclear power
Remember there was that
actually
whole thing
has
where
a
they had
union.
to drive to Canada to get drugs?
To be fair, pretty much everybody in America has to drive to Canada to get drugs.
People with proper health care now.
Well, I mean,
Well, in theory, they have proper health care.
it is good. Well, Mr. Burns, I think.
Thanks so
But Mr. Burns actually does provide health care. Immediate. Nilsson managed to get her dental. Homer has gotten cosmetic surgery completely on Mr. Burns' tab.
Mr. Burns is starting to get...
What's the benefit of birds?
No, all for the betterment of Homer. And his people, and his employees. He truly cares about people. He doesn't actually hurt anybody.
Mr. Burns treats Smithers like a literal slave. When they're when they're on a lovely Sunday cruise through the park, Mr. Smithers is stung by a bee, where she's going to die. To which Mr. Burns replies, "Ooh, tell Sunday trousers, fear not. I'll get you to a hospital the only way I know how."
Smithers, you infernal ninny! Stick your left hoof on that flange now! Now if you can get it through your buccal brain, jam that second rabbinic clodhopper of yours on the right toe tab! Now pump those scrawny legs, you stuporous fucker!
I agree, Mr. Burns is a great motivator.
See how much he cares about his employees?
Because they go all the way to the hospital.
I just need to point something out. You mentioned Mr. Burns as a caring and loving employer. Here are some of the things that Mr. Burns has called Homer. He's called ignoramus, lollygagger,
Blubberpot, baffleweed, lummox, pudding head, bean head, goon, goldbringer, goofball, drizzlepuss, fumble fist.
But he doesn't actually call anybody else anything, and the thing is, Homer can take it. Everybody else, look at Lenny and Carl. Lenny and Carl are really, really happy with where they work. Everybody else is really content at the power plant. So's Homer. He doesn't get depressed. He doesn't take it personally. He just trucks on. He doesn't. Homer
clearly does take it personally. If you
No, he doesn't.
He goes nuts.
He
And
goes
starts strangling him in a hospital.
Do you know what else Mr. Burns has called Homer? A safety inspector, an executive, a CEO, a marketing executive, the head of the India plant?
I think the fact that Mr.
And
Burns...
he's never called him
I think the fact that Mr. Burns made Homer Simpson a safety inspector
Executive
is the
in charge
biggest
of
proof
recreation.
that he does not give a crap about his own employees.
Well, here's the trick. He's okay.
10 meltdowns? One is too many.
They've never had a meltdown because of Homer Simpson being in charge and being able to point. He pulled a Homer. Coin to phrase, man.
He was a better boss. He'd have fired Homer.
He would never fire Homer or anybody.
That's because he's a bad boss. How terrible is that?
He cares about the people in
It's
his
great if you work for
He
him.
doesn't fire Homer because he is completely he forgets about his existence 5 seconds after he leaves his line of sight. It's like Alzheimer's disease. I'm so sorry.
Which, doesn't actually make him a bad boss.
Firing employees who are terrible is what makes you a good boss. That's why Jameson fired Eddie Brock. He's a shitty photographer.
He did end up firing Eddie Brock, but only after driving competition from Parker. He drove Eddie Brock to cheat.
Parker's better.
He threatened Eddie Brock to give results regardless of what that meant.
But a good
Who's the
boss,
bad boss?
that's motivation.
No. That's
That's why he
bad
pretends to not know
motivation
Peter Parker
because
is
it's
Spider-Man.
really discredited his own
I think
behavior.
there is a slight difference between using questionable methods to gain information as a journalist and, not having any urinal cakes or having any lead in the radiation shields.
Painted on
Dental
emergency exits.
Medical plan, cosmetic surgery. These are the things.
Paid for Homer's liposuction.
Tom
A
Jones.
surprise inspection.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
So we had a tape.
All right, let's hear it for both the geeks and the nerds. All right, guys, it's almost time for you folks to make the final decision, but we need to hear final word from both teams. In the interest of fairness, we shall switch around the order of the final word. So, nerds, your final word, please.
Well, I think Homer Simpson says it best. He said, some people never change. But some people do change, but then they instantly change back. And that's the difference between J. Jonah Jameson and Mr. Burns, is that Mr. Burns is inconsistent with his evil. Sometimes he's mean, sometimes he brings you love. He brings you peace. Where J. Jonah Jameson has been an asshole since the 60s.
And unlike his nemesis Spider-Man, who ascribes to the mantra with great power comes great responsibility, J. Jonah Jameson adheres to the much more self-serving with great responsibility comes great power. Hitler mustache!
All right, let's hear it for Hitler Mustache. And final word coming from the Geeks.
We have source material. In the Clone Saga from the late 90s, Parker is on trial. Here we go for the murder of Otto Octavius. J. Jonah Jameson personally pays for his lawyer. He does this because he loves Parker's work and Parker. He ignores the pleas from editor-in-chief Robbie Robertson.
Just look at the competition. The Times, the Daily News, the Post Newsday. Everyone's playing up the Parker trial. Everyone except us.
You already know how I feel, Joe. After the trial, when Parker is found innocent, he gruffly yells back to work. We still have a newspaper to publish. We have to keep our objectivity. Our readers deserve the facts of the case. We'll have a headline review in 10 minutes. He then stomps into his office, closes the door. When no one is around, his true face is revealed as he exclaims, "Hooah!" Only to himself. He is thrilled that he has helped his employee and friend be found innocent.
Ending on Hua. Let's hear it for the Geeks. You mentioned the Clone Saga. I thought we were going to be here for 4 years. All right, folks, it is time for you to render your decision with applause and whooping and hollering. Is the worst boss to work for the nerds and J. Jonah Jameson? Simpsons quotes. Okay, well, that's fair. Well, the winner is the Geeks and